All right, everybody. Last time we talked about something called significant figures and figuring out whether or not when you look at numbers that you collect during a lab and you're doing all this stuff with these numbers, which numbers that you're pulling up are valuable, which ones have value to them, okay? And this is what we call being statistically significant. We call them significant figures. Now, this is one of those papers I gave you before you left, and the first part of it where it says problems, it says at the very top, we're going to look at this real quick. It says give the number of significant figures in each of the following. So what I'm going to do is hopefully before you watch this, see if you can figure out how many there are, okay, for each one of them. And now we're going to go through them and see how well and how close you were to each one of them, okay? So let's look at the first one, 402 meters, 402 meters. Okay. How many significant figures are there? Well, obviously the 4 and the 2 are significant because they're non-zeros. There is one 0 right here, this 0 between the 4 and the 2. Now remember, it is a 0 that is captive, right? It's between two non-zeros, so it counts. So this first one has 3 significant figures, okay? So since it has 3 significant figures, okay, pretty straightforward, isn't it? Okay. The next one is 0.00420 grams. Well, again, how many significant figures? Well, we know the 4 and the 2 are obviously significant, right? Now, we have something called leading zeros, right? Right here. Remember, leading zeros do not count. They're just placeholders for the decimal point, okay? So we don't have to worry about those. This last 0 right here, though, is a trailing 0. And remember, trailing zeros only count if we have a decimal. And since we have a decimal right there, that means it does count. So we have 3 significant figures right there. Okay? This next one right here, 5.1 times 10 to the 4th kilograms. Now, we'll talk about what this is a little bit later, okay? And that's fine. Let's just look at which ones are significant. We don't care anything about this. This doesn't matter. We're looking specifically right here. The 5 and the 1 obviously count, so there's only 2 significant figures here. Okay? The next one, 78,323.01 grams. Obviously, all these numbers count except for, let's look at the 0 right here, right? Now that 0 is between two non-zeros, so it's called a captive. So it counts. Remember, captive zeros always count. So I got 5, 6, 7 significant figures. Because all these other ones count, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 count, and then this 0 counts because it's captive. So 7 significant figures. Okay? Now, the next one, 34.20 pounds. The 3, the 4, and the 2 obviously count. The 0 here is trailing, and there is a decimal, so it does count. So that means there's 4. The next one, 3,200 liters. The 3 and the 2 obviously count, don't they, because they're non-zeros. The 2 zeros here are trailing. Is there a decimal? No, there isn't. So they don't count. So there's only 2 of them. And the reason they don't count because this could be a number that has been estimated. It could be 3,199.8. But you round it off. Or maybe you round it down. Maybe it's 3,200.01 or something. But it was rounded. Because they don't have the decimal, that means it's a rounded number. Okay? Now the 0.48 meters, that's a leading 0. Leading zeros don't count. So just 2 numbers. Y'all start to see the pattern here? It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Okay? The 1.10 torr. That 0 counts because it's trailing with the decimal. So there's 3 significant figures. These last 4, 0.03 seconds. 0.03 seconds. These are leading. They don't count. 1 sig fig. 0.0300 feet. Leading, don't count. Trailing, if there is a decimal, count. So 1, 2, 3 significant figures. This one right here, 1,400.0 meters. These are trailing with a decimal. They count, so that's 5 significant figures. In other words, this 1,400.0 we measured specifically to that number. We actually measured it out, 1,400.0 meters. So that's an exact number, which means those are statistically significant. And then the last one, 760 millimeters of mercury. The 7 and 6 count, obviously the 0 trailing, no decimal, doesn't count, just 2, okay? So again, that was that real quick practice to help you figure out how many numbers in these are significant for each one. And again, if you have any questions, don't forget to ask. That's all you got to do is ask. Email me, check with me. Like I said, it'll be straightforward, okay? Now the next time we come back, we're going to be looking at how you add, subtract, multiply, and divide with these, okay? So that's next time. All right.